the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, just plus the world's best quiz. The cause PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
Morning, afternoon, afternoon,
Hey, Benny.
afternoon, morning.
We're doing podcast number 2 because we've just spoken for about
Podcast.
45 minutes on the phone.
Well, exactly. We've literally just done a podcast on the phone talking to each other. We're like, why don't we go live? We're now live. So if anyone's tuning in, hello. Obviously, this is about Chile. We call it WWT, PWA, 5-star, first one of the year, big points for grabs. They've gone all the way through the draw in the men, in the women, and they are down to the final 4 in each category. So it is now like ready. We know who the final 4 is, but we don't know in what order they are going to place. So what we thought we'd do, we'll come online. We want to hear your predictions. Let us know in the comments, what is your predictions? Have you been watching the coverage? Who do you think's looking good? Is there any standouts? I also want to know, who do you think got robbed? Did anyone get robbed? There's always someone that's been robbed. Did someone maybe not perform as you thought? There's lots to talk about. Obviously, they will be doing maybe a final today. So we got to keep that in mind. We don't know if those guys over there are going to do some pre-show or something like that. Maybe they are. If they are, I think we'll cut off. But we thought we'd come online anyway. There we go. That's my pre-spiel.
No, it's good. It's been an interesting event. What's your take on it all, Benny? You've been following it a bit, or what's?
I've been following it all. Yeah. I've been trying to windsurf in between. We had some really good conditions, so I've been, doing that. But then it's been working out nicely because of the time delay. So it's actually been working out great for me. I really enjoyed yesterday. I thought it's super interesting. So I'm going to go through just some thoughts that I've had just watching it, which I thought was kind of interesting. We got a couple of guys. Well, we made some predictions last time we were here. I think I went for Mark Paré, Marcilio Brown, Morgan Nareau. This was based off what I know and based off Lucas and Finn, who were over there telling us what was going on. 2 of those guys are in the final. And maybe the 2 guys that I didn't give enough credit to because they were injured. We heard Baptiste had hurt his foot, broken foot, or done some damage. And we kind of thought, well, he's not going to be in the final if he's done some damage to his foot. And we also heard Camille Juban, who is also in the top 4 in the men, had damaged his toe, broken his toe. So it was kind of like, well, those 2 guys, they're really good in port tack. They should be right up there. But maybe, those injuries, well, not maybe, those injuries should hold them back. It looks like it's had the opposite effect. They've come out all guns blazing, do or die, no pressure, and they look, to me, the freest sailors on the water. They look like they're just relaxed. Baptiste especially. He just looks like he's in full send mode. He's not holding back on anything. He did have a couple of buzzer beaters, didn't he? Did Baptiste the one who had the buzzer beater?
Yeah, he had one, which I wasn't even sure was going to be counted. But he caught a swell.
Yes.
Way out the back, but then absolutely ripped the wave apart.
Yeah,
it was actually a sick wave.
Antoine Martin was actually already through. The commentators were kind of going, "Oh, he's already through," and it was fully on the live stream, the wave. And I was like looking at it, thinking, "Well, that looked kind of maybe in," and it looked a sick wave, goiter at the end, and everything fully balls to the wall, like throwing it down. And it came back right at the end to steal it, and then obviously making the final.
Yeah. I'm actually just trying to scrub through the live stream in the background to see if we can actually find that particular wave. Bear with me. But it's been interesting. It's been there's definitely been a few standouts, hasn't it? I think as we discussed before, for me, Marcilio Brown looks very consistent and just gets the job done. Mark Paré is looking really sharp. He just getting sick turns and doing all the moves. Batiste, I mean, it's amazing. Actually, what toe is it? Oh no, he's got it's a Liz Frank injury, was it? Or was it a toe?
Again, we don't know. Like as far as I know, when we had the last podcast here, we talked about like the pre-show, which was Finn and Lucas, and they were saying, you know, he was going for it, and everyone was like, surely he's going to injure himself, and then they went and he did, and they were like, we're not sure he's going to compete, but we can't really say that. That's kind of what I read into that situation, that he was kind of putting a brave face on, and he was just going to, you know, he's there and he's not going to say anything, but he's going to try and compete. But I took that as he's in a bad way. If you didn't know, and the commentators didn't say, and we didn't have the background information from Finn and Lucas, you wouldn't have guessed he was injured. To me, like there was not one sign of in his sailing where I thought, oh, this guy looks like he's holding back a little bit. If anything, it looked the opposite. He looked just like he was just cutting loose, which is what we're used to seeing from Baptiste. If you've ever freestyle with this guy, you will know the guy's a just lunatic, and he has that do or die attitude. We saw it in Fiji as well. He doesn't hold back, always goes for the sections, always goes for the big moves. It did play into Camille's hands and Baptiste's hands, I think, a little bit, because in those later rounds, the wind dropped, especially in the semi-final, I seem to remember, which they were against, you know, two of the bigger riders, which was Victor Fernandez and Philip Costa. I have to say, I thought Philip Costa looked very good in the windier stuff. When it was windy, again, I've said this on the commentary a lot of times, this guy, it needs wind. When he's got wind, he just pulls off everything. It's crazy. As soon as the wind drops, he's not able to get around the break. He doesn't get as many opportunities. He can't put himself in position as quickly as the smaller guys. And that definitely played into Baptiste and Camille's hands. Obviously, they're rippers, don't get me wrong. But I thought Victor and Costa kind of suffered a little bit with that drop in wind. And I thought maybe the same fate could have been said for the second semi-final. But in the end, actually, Marcelo Brown and Mark Paré, who were the bigger riders in that heat, were the guys that went through. Obviously, I thought Mark, a lot of talk about him coming to Chile. I spoke to him before on the phone. He was like, really felt he was in tune. But for me, watching the competition, he looked not nervous, but understandably, I think he was in that position where, do I want to go for what I can do? But with limited wave choice, like early on, it looked like a lot of heats could have gone a lot of different ways. Like you really needed the right waves. You could be the best sailor on the water, but if you didn't get the right waves, you're going to get knocked out. So there was this real pressurized situation where you might only get 2 good waves in a heat, maybe 1. And if you go for broke or go for the high end of what you can do, if you mess it up, that could be you done, this is difficult. And I've been there, not at the World Cup level, but a national level where you know you should beat some of the guys in the heat, but you cannot commit to doing your biggest moves. I think now we're in the finals. It's going to be very interesting to see how these guys sail. Mark definitely had one heat where he had a couple of comfortable waves, got some sort of scores in the bank, and then he cut loose. And this is when you saw, for me, the real Mark Paré just going. And I think same with Brasinho as well. You know, it's interesting, really interesting.
We've got, looks like we've got Finn down below here. Should we bring him up?
Let's add him in.
There he is. And Lucas. The boys.
Good timing. Yeah.
Here we
Thanks
go, boys.
for joining us.
How are you doing?
So I would say, just for people who don't know, Lucas, Meldrum, Finn, Mellon, obviously over there in Chile. We had him on the first podcast, obviously competing on the tour. Finn, I mean, we haven't talked about it. You went through the Challenger fleet, which looked rough, man. It looked 32 guys, only 4 riders advancing in Topicama, which no one thought you'd be competing there, which probably wasn't a bad thing. And Lucas was in the main draw. So maybe we need to touch on the Challenger stuff, because that is brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. And of course, we did the Challengers last year. And we almost got to the main event through it last. We got to the final. This year, the level for the Challengers was quite a lot higher, I thought.
Yeah.
They had 4 people going through this year compared to only 2 last year.
Okay, so there was less.
Last year, otherwise.
Oh, yes, that's a point, because you both made the final.
Yeah.
So my takeaway from what you guys were saying last on the podcast was the locals were looking on form, you know, and they could cause some big upsets, and that came true, I thought, and they could have gone even further, I thought, watching the main event. But obviously you had the bros in the challenger fleet, and they were looking good, man. Fabrice brothers.
Yeah, they were super good. Even, I think we said it before, the event had tidy and clean there, and how good the sailing is. And then Lucas was actually watching. He was filming most of the challenges, so he saw it from the beach. And yeah, they were just the most consistent. Like, I think it was actually the challenges semi-final, so the heat you had to win to get through.
Yeah,
it was the one. Was it Benjamin or Diego with Moritz?
It was this one here with Benjamin Moritz.
Yeah. So this heat here, the buzzer started and Diego got right out back. I think everyone else took about 10 minutes to get out. I was like, oh, this is going to be canned. Like, you see, Andres Tobada didn't get a wave. He didn't get out back in the heat.
Okay.
Gave up. He literally came into the beach 3 minutes before and sat.
Whereas, like, it was amazing. You see, Benjamin's got 7 waves. He was just getting wave after wave after wave. It was a real masterclass by him. It was pretty impressive.
Wow.
Okay.
It's actually a good heat score compared to the rest.
Yeah, he was on fire.
Yeah. I think there's a point to be made about obviously it being switched to Topocama, which I think we agree was the good decision, but I think a few people were slightly annoyed that they didn't know that this could happen. So a few of the guys had never sailed Topocama, including Moritz, but Moritz was sailing really consistent. I mean, the thing is, it's not a hard wave to sail like Matanzas, but it's still like any sport you ideally want a session to get used to it.
Yeah.
But out of the guys who didn't sail it, Moritz obviously doing really well considering.
And I guess we'll tell you. So not sure if you've seen much of the conditions. It still was very light. We didn't have much wind. There was the odd heat where people would be playing, but pretty much all float and ride.
Yeah.
And then I thought the difficulty of it was there wasn't many waves. Like, sometimes you go 12, 15 minutes without a set wave, and then the next set would start and they get set. So it was like, because we actually moved to 6-man heats. We were supposed to do, I think it was heats of 3 in round 3. And out of nowhere, we just arrived to the beach that morning. They were like, round 3 is a 6-man heat.
Yeah. I think they had to do that, though. If you look where they are now, in what position they're at, they've still not sailed the finals. 32 men like qualifying round, let's say trials is generous. It's good. I think it needs to happen. The problem is you're going to have to sacrifice some things or make spot calls to make things happen. Otherwise, maybe you don't even finish the main draw, so I think I can imagine the frustration because you're like, oh, that's not exactly as they said it. But I think you've got to make those calls at that stage.
I think the wrong call was like to start with how many people were in it to start with. I think that was the main issue, and I think that's something, I don't know, I would want to see that they change that. And
it needed to be a separate competition.
We had a lot less, and they said they would cut it down this year, but actually they increased it. Yeah. And the problem was that there's a lot of people doing youth masters who also just enter the main event.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is a debate in itself. But I think with the PWA, from what I heard in the past, the trials, there was only a select few amount of people, I don't know, 10 or something. You might know more than 10. But I think this was the main.
Yeah, I think if you can do it, it's amazing. But as we were having a conversation on the phone before, me and Paul, and it's like the problem is for it to all line up, do a 32-man trials and have it's just such a marathon task. It almost needs to be a separate qualifying event with a different time period where, or a qualifier for the qualifier. It's like there needs to be some narrowing down. And I get there's maybe a lot of locals that want to push through And again, that could be a qualifying series in themselves to get themselves into how many people can, I don't know, again, like you say, there's got to be a way of limiting it, because with windsurfing, the reason we have these long periods is to make sure you get the main event with the right wind. But if you've got to fit all the fleets in, it's going to become more of a mission. And again, I'm one of those fleets. I'm the Masters fleet, but I can just see the way it's going. It's getting crazy. And I can hear more Masters getting motivated, and it's going to be a problem soon.
I think like a dream scenario there would be to actually use, like the 1, 2, 3, 4-star system that we have.
Yeah.
I think a dream scenario would be to use that as your qualifying series. So then myself and Lucas, we've done good in the 3s and the 4s and the 2s.
Yeah.
We book our Chile flights knowing that you're in the event.
Yeah.
Or that at least you're in a elite challengers event, of half the size perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the problem with the challenges this year was there's a really big difference in level from the bottom guys to the top guys. And I think in hindsight, you could have cut half the fleet and still had a really good challenge event.
Yeah.
So,
and then maybe you have a result.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. Would it have changed anything? I don't know. But it's interesting. Definitely interesting.
Yeah. There's also, I think, go ahead.
No, Gary.
I think there's also something interesting, like for that up and coming level. So let's say the people who are trying to push into the main fleet, there's also an interest in actually you can go home and say, oh, like last year, we were in the final of the challenges. We came 3rd and 4th in the challenges. Whereas this year, it was a bit strange. It got to the semis and it's like, oh, done.
Yeah.
Which is a bit odd.
That would have been tough, mate. Yeah.
It's definitely where, and like it was unfortunate in my heat. I think it was Diego, Benjamin, Kaimani, Walter, myself, and Felipe, another local from here. And like in that heat, I just caught one set wave pretty much. So I left that heat pretty disappointed in how just not having the opportunity, which is almost, that's a bad way to lose a heat when you actually don't have the opportunity to prove yourself.
Yeah. It's tricky. It is tricky because you want to give people opportunity. You want to get guys to come in. But I think in the past, it's been harder to do it now with all the 3 stars and 4 stars and all this stuff. There could easily be now a really sorted system to how you do it, Yeah. I guess it's never easy because certain events are more stacked than others. And it depends how many seeded riders you've got in some of these 4-star events, and it is tricky. But
could you just explain something to me? So why was it at Topicama? I've never been to Chile, but why was Matanzas not good, or what was
the aim for that day? Was often Topicama will actually get windier earlier than Matanzas because as you've seen by the live stream, it's about sometimes 1:30, 2 o'clock that it starts to get windy here in Matanzas.
Yeah.
On a general day, Topicama could get windy by 11, something like that often, which actually unfortunately didn't end up that way. It was actually about 1 or 2 that we started in Topo. But that was the plan, was more earlier wind to then push through more heats. And what they did have was, I think, a little more swell.
Okay. So like, for example, yesterday it looked like, pretty sick conditions at Matanzas. What would it have been like at Topicama yesterday? Been going off?
I was speaking to Mike Friedel and Tim, who went and sailed Topo. They said they were on 4.5s and it was windy all afternoon. And I think they said head to logo, maybe a little bigger on the sets.
Yeah, right. It's pretty sick though. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I do think though Matanzas is better for a World Cup. Just
because I know what you mean.
I have a feeling watching that wave is amazing for free sailing, but for competition, Matanzas has this just fucking unexpectedness about it and this nastiness about it. And it's just got this, I don't know, I really like it. Like watching it, I can see it's not easy. And there is a bit of luck. There's a massive amount of fucking balls if you're going to go for it. And the risk reward is fucking huge. And I'm like, and I love that for competition. For me, it's like,
and also the whole setup, isn't it, Benny? I mean, if you look at it, they've got the awesome hotels and beach set up there, and obviously they got electricity and yeah, probably a mobile reception. You know, Topper is probably pretty tricky to make it all happen, I imagine.
It looks perfect. It looks perfect. Like watching, you can see the setup. I'd say the only bad thing, which is what you can't change, is where the sun goes down. That's the only. That's like Cape Town. It's like most
WA.
Yeah, it's like most good places in the world. They've all got this setting sun, which is like blinding you. But it looked good, man. And I tell you what, that top camera angle, like you watch the wave from certain angles, and you're like, yeah. And then you suddenly see the pictures or there's a camera up on the left, and you're like, oh my God, it looks savage. Or the camera from down low somewhere. I keep seeing these shots and going, oh my God, it looks way more scary. Like, that's probably how it looks, as I say.
There's one thing you don't see generally from, like, if you look at it straight on, you don't see it, and you see it from the water when you're sailing out. Like, there's full-on bows surfing barrels going through the lineup, and sometimes you're underneath it, sometimes you're on it, and it's really like when you see some of the guys on the aerials, like even if you try and land the perfect aerial, you're landing so hard compared to like if you're proper.
There was an aerial from Baptiste yesterday in the semis, I think, and he did this air, and as he landed, he accelerated because he landed so flat. It was almost like it boosted him forward. It was either Camille or I think it was Baptiste, and I was like, Baptiste. Oh, he's messed the section, because usually you would soak it up to cushion it, and he just went boom and made the section. I was like, wow, that looked pretty sick.
And he's doing all that on a broken foot.
This is the bit I said to Paul before. I was like, if you didn't tell me, and if I didn't know, and if the commentators didn't say anything, I wouldn't have a clue he was injured. Like, he doesn't look like he's holding back. It's like, it's the opposite.
It's because it's actually interesting. We mentioned it in the first podcast we did. We were like, oh, we're not sure about that, geez. Because he wasn't sailing, he wasn't surfing, he was completely off the water, and like he was fully limping around with a boot on, a strapped up foot.
Mind games.
Then, pretty much.
You're going to try that next event, Finn. Just limping around, dragging you. Oh, it's all right. I got Finn in the heat.
two boots and a crutch. And then
what was? Hang on. Update. Comp going live in half an hour. Woo!
Is it?
The boys on the spot don't look convinced.
I would hold back a bit, wait for the win.
Yeah, I guess they could push through with the juniors and the masters because they need to get some of that done.
Yeah.
Because what time is it? It's early. It's 10:30 here.
Surprising.
Because every other day we've had the call around 12:30 that it's going to start at 1 o'clock-ish around that. So that is early, but maybe the plan is, I guess, maybe to push through with the younger fleets and then leave. Because I don't see the point in also pushing the final to the first heat of the day. That would be a bad call.
I don't think there's point. And just to get people at home, a few things to mention, but how's the forecast looking? What's it might happen today, the final? Is that like there's waves?
Yeah, I think swells, I don't know what's going on the swell because we've had this really quite south swell. So the waves being able to open up quite a lot. And I know today is the day where it changes to north.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means, to be honest. But there's definitely something going on with the swell.
I think
the wind looks all right, though.
I think when you get more of a north swell here, it comes, rather than the south coming down the point, more like a point break. And that's when you get those long reeling ones.
Yeah.
The north, from Victor says, the north comes more straight into the beach. So Matanzas gets actually even faster.
Okay, so you get pushed into the rock, or you just
just more towards the beach, and it becomes more like a race down the line, big aerial section.
Oh, that could suit Camille and Baptiste then. That is
1 foot, guys.
Fucking.
Well, Camille is also injured as well, which is pretty.
Yeah,
and like I had him in my redemption heat, and like we're actually looking afterwards. It's like it wasn't like I needed that much of a major score. He beat him, and actually in those early heats he was looking quite reserved.
I agree.
I don't know what happened yesterday, but yesterday he just seemed to be going for it. It was a bit strange.
I think you could have had it. I watched your heat and I was like, I feel like you went a bit safe watching, but when you're there I know it's totally different, but watching I was like, because there was one wave I thought, oh, this is, or maybe it didn't.
In hindsight, I should have tried to go into the beach on one of them, but as it's always
easy.
like
it's easy afterwards.
I know.
Well, how do you feel about?
You might just not be able to get out if you come into the beach. Sometimes.
Okay.
You get nothing.
For Lucas's heat, we were watching like the heat before and the one before that, and that's kind of where we said that unless you had already gotten a good score out the back, we were saying jibe to get a few turns on the outside, then go to the inside, because the guys who are going to the inside on every wave were just really struggling to get out back, and they were spending 6-7 minutes just to get through that inside.
We saw it a bit in the semi-finals yesterday. Like Paré stayed up high, and you could tell it was like a conscious decision. I think maybe he's been here a bit now, and he kind of knew it. And everyone else came really early into the beach, and then he had the whole place to himself at that top end.
Yeah. He said his last two heats, the quarter and the semi-final, he sailed blinders, which it was interesting knowing him. The first few heats of the day that he had done and the competition, he wasn't happy at all with his performance. He was really quite like coming in the beach, even though I was telling him, "Oh, you're through, you've won," and like you've won it easy. He was like he was pissed off.
I could see it.
I just missed. So who are you talking about? Sorry,
Mark. Right.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then it was good. So then the quarterfinal, which I forget he was in the quarterfinal, and then the semi-final, he came back up the beach with a big smile on his face, and like he knew he knew he'd sailed good.
You could see it. Like I was just saying before, maybe before you guys come on, it's like to me, I'm watching them as early heats, and they look tricky because you could be the best sailor there, but if you didn't have the right wave, you'd go knocked out. And you could see it happening. You're thinking, oh man, this is horrible to watch, because it was like you needed the wave. Like you couldn't just get away with any wave. You had to have the right wave. So then that cut down your opportunities in the heat. So if you went for what you think you probably could land, there's more risk than just going safe. And when you go safe, it also is a risk that someone like Baptiste or these guys cut loose, and you're leaving yourself open. And this is difficult to sail like that. And then as it went on, I thought Mark had some early banking waves, and that's what kicked off his run. And then he got his confidence up because he could like unleash a little bit. And then you could just see him like growing into the conditions, I thought.
I think it was quite hard, the whole contest, because I think the heats were pretty much only like 17 or 20 minutes. I think last year they were longer. They were like 25 minutes. So that meant like my first heat, I made a conscious decision to stay busy, just catch a wave, go out, catch a wave. And I think I caught like a total of 5 waves. That was staying busy. So you can imagine if you're being a bit selective, you can only get maybe 3 or 4. And then you've got to like smash it. Otherwise you're done. You know, if you especially if you risk it the first section and fall off, you're done. So
we'll get on to the women in a second, but I just got a couple of questions for you guys. I was just curious about this. You know, as we went through the event, some of the results, well, you're always going to get a few surprises. One of them for me was Robbie Swift. Obviously, we all know how good a sailor he is, but what was his reaction? Did you guys see him after this? Was he? Yeah.
I watched this heat because actually I spent a lot of the day on the beach just watching it, and helping Victor and Mark. And this heat, I disagree with the scores on this. That 4.27 for Diego, in my opinion, was never a 4.27.
It was a pretty crap wave, wasn't it? Like what he did on it was all right, but the wave was.
Yeah, and the tacker was like for the warm up. What the judges told us they were scoring was like no freestyle maneuvers, critical. You know what we want to expect, and then like I thought that score, and I thought it was a very like freestyle pushed force tacker, and I was like in my head I was like, no, Swifty's got that, and then I saw the score, I was like, oh, like. Don't get me wrong, he sailed fantastic this event, but I think Swifty deserved to take the win on that. So, and I didn't see Swifty's reaction. I thought I'd stay away.
He went
I think that's worth noting. It's like there's no like spite of anyone sailing or whatever, because we've seen everyone was just tearing it up on whatever waves. But in that particular wave, at that particular moment, I'd heard about it because I was sailing at the time. I came back and I was like, you know, looking for what was the moments, and everyone was like, oh, Swifty was robbed, or in the comments. So I thought, right, I better go and have a look at it. And then I watched it back, and it was like buzzer beater, wasn't it? It was like right at the end, and it was kind of like the wave was a bit white watery. It wasn't a proper lip, and it was a forced tacker, and there wasn't much else on it. And you were like, ooh, there's not much points in that. And then I was kind of thinking it was, you know, we were waiting for it to come through at the end, waiting for it to come through. And it came through, and you're like, there was mixed feelings. Like, you kind of like, oh, it's nice for the local, you know, guy to go through. But I think he would have wanted to go through on a better wave. You know, like he wanted to be, yeah, freaking stomp that. And he'll be feeling almost like, oh, now I've got this kind of feeling. I don't know. And I felt sorry.
I think had he got a better wave, he would have been more than capable to get that score. But I just didn't think wave to the finish. I just didn't think it was quite the score.
Well, what I definitely didn't do is go back and watch all the other waves to see what they scored relatively to that. So I don't know how Swifty got his scores. I literally watched the end of the heat. So, you know, due diligence wise, I should probably have seen what Swifty got for his 4 point something. And then you can literally watch them together. And that's really maybe a more truer, you know, how that kind of played out, maybe.
In my head,
I have to say, I was. Oh, sorry.
You know the way in your head you score, like you run your own little scores in your head.
Yeah.
What you would score, and like you're also looking at the live scores, and like I was going ahead with probably the scores they were given, but Swifties were better. Like I would, that was fine, like mid fours. They were decent sized waves. I think he had like one turn, like a flowing aerial, another turn, medium size.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting one.
One that I also thought was interesting, because I haven't seen him in too many events the last few years, was Dieter van der Eyck. I thought he was doing some sick turns, actually. It was sometimes a bit hard to see in the live stream, because sometimes you'd have a wide angle view and you could see some sailor in the background or something. But when I saw Dieter on the wave, it looked like he was throwing, you know, a fair bit of spray around. I don't know if it was, if you guys any comments on that. Dieter sailing.
I actually didn't watch that heat fully. It was just out the corner of my eye.
Oh, not necessarily this heat, but just in general, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, Dieter was sailing well. He was, like, I think his board, you could see he was flowing a lot and like catching decent waves. So maybe not necessarily doing the best turns on them, but he was getting good long waves and like finishing it strong with an aerial. Which we saw. What was the heat?
We saw him in the heat that he beat Thomas Traversa. He got a really good buzzer beat. I think he literally came into the beach, changed his rig, got a bigger sail, like 3 minutes to go. We're like, don't know if he's even going to get out. Just about got away. And as you said, just really good completed wave aerial into the beach. And that's you get the score. So
give me this.
Competitor as well, you know.
In the whole competition, we haven't seen a single 8 point ride. Is that correct?
We literally just talked about this. We're like, not being any kind of elite score. I would say the repeat that I had with Julian, the first round, Julian got an amazing wave, like incredible turns. I think that could have been.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. That was sick. Yeah.
I think also, do you remember from day one, Brazinho's, he had the highest score of the day, the one with tweaked airs and turns. It was like high 7, I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We haven't seen one above an 8.
I think comparing Brow's high 7 to the other 7s that day, Brow's was a lot better. But it didn't go there. But I think it possibly.
And what's everyone else thinking? What's the feeling amongst sailors? Because there is still quite a close scale. Like, I feel like I've seen some good stuff where I think if it's not in the 9s, it's definitely in the 8s. Some of the stuff I was seeing was in the 6s and 5s, and I'm thinking, wow, that should be a 7. I don't know. I feel like they could stretch it, but I know what happens when you start like that. It is very difficult to stretch it because not everyone's on the same page, and then it can get a bit funky. It's tricky.
I think on the ground there's been quite a lot of confusion as to like what's actually scoring. As in sometimes someone's long flowing wave without much power and conviction into the turns, and like a little floaty aerial, not a difficult one, has been scoring very high, and then someone who's actually risked it and gone under the lip, like full rail turns, and then they score that the same. And there's been a lot of that, or even actually worse. Sometimes it looks like the floaty aerials are scoring really well, which at our level we shouldn't be scored for little floaty aerials.
Yeah. It's almost like a get out of jail free card when you've mistimed it. Not totally.
Yeah, I think when the judges said at the start that they basically said, we don't care like what size of wave you are. If you're on a smaller wave and like fully ripping it, getting like just 2 turns, we're going to score that over like a big wave with you kind of S turn.
Okay.
And he basically said like, don't play it safe. We're going to score like if we're like watching like kind of like, oh god, like, hope like let something look scary, they're going to score it. Which was cool that they said that, but I feel like didn't quite actually happen.
Yeah.
When in real life.
And I think that came to fruition in quite a lot of these. Like as I just look at the boards now, there was quite a lot of heats where I and other people watched, and we were like, not sure if I agree with that.
Yeah, it's tricky. Do you think the scores were lower because of what you had before the competition? Like you had these macking like conditions, big fat lips, and you saw some 10s. Maybe you saw some 9 5s, 10s, and you're like, okay, that's the level. And then in the competition, maybe the conditions weren't as good, and it's like, well, that was half as good as that big one the other day, and that sort of ended up being the scale. Maybe, I don't know. Because it is difficult if you think, well, that's possible, and then we're doing this now, which is not as good.
Yeah, it's in, but like as I think there's still been some, not that many, but there's still been a few waves that have been really quite fantastic.
I'd agree.
And got into that 8 ranges and higher, but haven't seen them. And then also ones that probably should have stayed as 3s and 4s that went up to 6s, and it's like, what did you see that I didn't see?
Yeah.
Like actually, I'm not going to name the sailors and the waves, but I remember quite a lot of them.
Interesting. No, but it is interesting because judging is not a science, like for sure.
No.
So hard, but yeah.
I would have. Sorry, I was going to just say this quarterfinal. I would have loved to have been on the beach, seeing Federico get second, because I've seen him in events before and he gets super excitable. Did you see his reaction for this one? Were you around?
This one, we were actually both sailing Roca. We were sailing the point break down below. I came back after the season.
Oh, okay. I see. But he did well. This was actually one of the... Sorry, you go.
Fede here has got an amazing skill. It's similar. You can see he spent that time in it, similar as the locals have got it. He always picks fantastic waves here. He's very good at that.
Federico.
Yeah.
No, he's definitely.
His wave selection is definitely what is, it's got him this far. I mean, like it plays such a big part here. You need to be on the right waves, and I think that's why he's done so well. And him being on the best waves means Morgan's not on it, for example.
Yeah.
Fede almost beat Marsilio in the last heat.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't too.
It was really exciting to watch, actually.
Well, this one was interesting because you would have probably put your money on Morgan, not to take anything away from Federico, but that was, I guess, one of the early upsets as well, was Morgan not progressing through. So it was a massive result for Federico, I thought. So well done to him. There was a few other interesting ones. So then, because I'm just going to go through here some of these quarterfinals and semis, because that's obviously at the towards the end of these rounds. This was an interesting one, and there was a comment here. Someone's written a comment about Marino. The 697. From my memory, it was a wave where he did possibly 1 or 2 decent turns, then a really good wave 3, arguably probably the best wave 3 of the event, and then finish it off with a goiter. And I remember watching that thinking, oh, that was a sick wave. When I was, mentally you're sort of thinking, what would I score something? And I thought, oh, surely that's going to get like an 8 or an 8.5 or something like that. But he ended up with a 697, which basically meant that he ended up in 3rd place. I mean, this is just a personal judgment. It's just me. I could be completely wrong, but I think I probably wasn't the only one to be slightly surprised with that particular score. But yeah, I thought that was just an interesting part of the event as well.
Yeah, would agree.
But it was a 360, I think, attacker. I think it was like a turn or even a setup turn or a little aerial or something. Then the 360. Was it a turn and then a 360 and then attacker? I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually.
Oh, was it attacker? Was it? Oh, sorry, I thought it was okay. I can't remember the move.
I don't remember. But the wave wasn't particularly crazy, like in terms of size or anything like this. And I thought, well, maybe that's why they did it, because from one angle, I was like, oh my God, that's like, I actually wasn't watching at the time, but I started reading the comments and everyone was going crazy. So I kind of watched it back and I was like, yeah. But the 360, as I said this to Paul earlier, how many 360s did we see in the competition? It's not a guaranteed move. So you are risking your whole wave, whereas the goiter feels a bit more like it can be pulled off on the end section as a kind of finishing move with less consequence. Not to say it's not as hard. For sure, goiter's super hard. But I feel like the 360 there's a bit more risk involved unless you see that goiter. I think Paré did one off a pretty crazy section yesterday. Didn't pull it, but it depends on the section, doesn't it?
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, Marino's 360 was the first 360 of the event, actually, followed by Mark in the semi.
Yeah.
So
there weren't many. It was like 2 in the whole event.
Which, as we said in the warm-up, is quite unusual. There was a lot of 360s going down.
I think, like, in terms of, I mean, I didn't actually see this one, but in terms of if you said it was on like a medium wave, I think you've got to, I guess you got to make room for, if that was on a big set wave, then that would maybe be it's already pretty much a 7, let's say. Yeah. So if it's on a bigger wave, maybe it's an 8 something. So
I think the wave wasn't great. It was all right, but it was one. I remember watching it from the one camera angle, and I thought, maybe that's why. That was just I can remember that thought in my head yesterday. But at the time, when I watched it from the straight angle, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be 8.5 or maybe more 9. Just see it right up there. But then maybe they're not scoring the tackers as high. Like maybe that's. And again, the consistency is the difficult one, isn't it? Like we saw that 51 with
Diego, because that tacker scored really high.
Exactly, and that was a 4. So
I've actually found the wave here, so you can have a look. And you're right. It looks like it was a tacker. Sorry, I thought it was my memory was a goiter or something, but it was actually a tacker. But the actual wave size wasn't too shabby. It wasn't like, there wasn't many bigger ones coming through. That was a logo high.
There's another angle, I think.
Yeah, it's head high there. So that's a sick wave 3, and then
jumping a bit.
It's doubling up there a bit, isn't it? But yeah, I guess.
Oh, it was a pretty. When you see it from the other angle,
hardly done any.
There's a replay. There's a replay if you keep watching. But your video is just playing very. I can't see it. This angle, pretty decent on that. I'm watching in like one frame every 5 seconds.
We don't buy frame.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
It's literally got one frame every 5 seconds.
Let me just reduce the quality of it. Maybe it'll be better. Is that better or?
Not really.
Okay. It's just not working. No.
Open it with your phone, and then
we got the idea, I think.
No, crappy internet in Geraldine.
It looks lovely.
Yeah.
We're seeing like still shots, like, but someone's got an old school camera.
Victor
Yeah,
absolutely
forget it then.
smashed that.
Okay.
Victor absolutely smashed that heat. He sailed it blindly.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the heats of the event, that one from him. It was very good.
He was doing Victor things, just looked flowing, like long, like bang, 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 just looked in charge.
I mean, after seeing that again, I mean, you guys didn't see it very well because obviously the reception was bad. I obviously got to see it. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think they could have given a bit more generous with that, but anyway, it's one of those touch and go moments. You know, can
you film it with your phone?
And then send it to you.
Yeah, it'll work.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, let me just see if I can. Hold on a second. I just need to. You guys can keep chatting, and I'll try and get that done.
Another interesting, good heat that I watched was the heat versus Marsilio, Baptiste, and Antoine, which, like, on paper, that looked like a mega heat to watch.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because it was Brow looked like he was pretty clear in that. In first, he was quite comfortable, and then Antoine was trying these air attackers, which if he landed one proper, it would have been a massive score. But he wasn't landing them. But he had two pretty decent waves, and Baptiste just had the one, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate for Baptiste. And then, like, the buzzer went, and I wasn't sure if Baptiste had got this wave. And I'm watching, I'm like, well, that's a very good wave. It was like one critical aerial, and then like a really gnarly goiter, like a proper goiter, scary section. And I was like, I kind of actually thought it might have been after the buzzer. I was like, oh, he's going to be so bummed on that. And then I was like, maybe it will come through on the scores. And it came through as a massive score. And like, it was well deserved. It was a really clutch wave, that one.
The thing is, it's so nice to get that wave at the end because you know that's it. Like, you know, like you can just zone in and go, well, it's now or never. I'm not going through unless I nail this. And this is what, when you see those riders riding like that, that's when they kind of reach you see what they can do. Because the early stuff is all sort of, again, a few people like to kick off big. But the problem is with that, if it doesn't go well, you kind of start your heat and you're like, shit. And then 3-4 minutes in, you haven't got a wave. Whereas if you go semi-safe, you're getting something in the bag, and then you've only got to get another wave, and then you can relax and you can start cutting loose. It's such a difficult, competition sailing is just not the same as free sailing. You know, if you've never done it and you're just watching these things going, why didn't you do that? What? It's just a different animal, and it's so much harder when you're there. Like,
I actually, funny enough, in my first heat, I'd never really had this before, and I don't know really why, because I don't know, your mind's a weird thing, but like my mouth went fully dry. Yeah, that's never happened for me, and because I was also going into it like, I'm in like a pretty tough heat with Julian and Antoine. Like, I don't really care. I'll just have a good crack at it, like no pressure. Yeah. But for some reason, you know, your body's a weird thing, and like I just went super dry. I couldn't barely breathe.
Well, I've been sick before a few times.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people throwing up before heats.
Yeah, I've happened to me a lot of times. I can't eat before heats. I couldn't, depending on what sort of stuff it was or what we're doing. Racing back in the day, it might have been more hungover than actual nerves, but like wave sailing's been a bit different. But it's pretty intense. When you're watching those heats, like for me anyway, I'm watching them thinking, you know, when we did the show last week and we do some predictions, as soon as those heats started kicking off and I'm looking down the list, I'm like, oh my God, it could be any of them. You're looking at the names going, well, he's a ripper, he's a ripper, he's a ripper, he's a ripper. In the women, you're like, well, she can win, she could beat her, she could do that. You know, and especially at Matanzas, from what I've seen, I've not been there, you're like, these are the comps I like. That they're like what I used to like, is when it's it is a bit like that. You've really got to get your head screwed on. You've got to get your tactics right. You've got to know when to risk it, you've got to take in everything. And it was really interesting for me yesterday watching the different mentalities of riders, and some guys just got out of sync. Like I saw Salmon in that later, he just looked lost. Like you didn't see him, so maybe he wasn't. Maybe something went wrong. I don't know. But I've been there, and everything you touch just doesn't come off. You go for a wave, and for no reason it just drops out or doesn't do anything, and then you're out of sync, and then the other guys are on the set, and you're like, yeah, and then it just seems to just go away from you. And then opposite to that is Paré in the last heat, and he was in the loop. He just kept coming, and you like everything you touch turns to gold, and everything you lines up, and you're just like, oh, that's a good feeling. That is a good feeling. Right.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, you're on the beach. Want to hear beach talk. Who you thought was sailing good, who maybe didn't get a break yesterday, who you thought might deserve more? Give me some names.
One heat that actually, maybe not in this conversation, but I guess there'd be questions at home what was happening in it. It was the Adam, Varchal, Julian, Salmon, and Takuma heat.
Yeah.
And I guess watching the live stream is probably a bit weird. Adam asked me to caddy from, so I watched this one fully from the beach. And Takuma didn't get like a single wave until like the last 2 minutes. He had like a 1, I think, in the last 5, and then 2 waves at the very end. And like on the beach, I was like, what's Takuma doing? It's so bizarre. And actually after the heat, he was walking up the beach and I talked to him, and he broke his harness at the start of the heat, like in the first minute of the heat. So if you could not show on the live, if you saw, he spent the whole heat out by the island, and he was trying to fix his harness. The actual metal clip of it snapped.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
So then he spent the whole, 17 plus 3.
No.
He spent pretty much all of that trying to fix his harness.
Oh,
and that's why it wasn't even in the event in the waves at all until the last 6 minutes. But also,
you don't think much about you. So I was going to say, you don't think much about your harness breaking. Is the last thing in your quiver that you worry about?
No, and you put 3 spare rigs on the beach
to
change.
You take spare harnesses
on the beach.
Yeah.
And like it was an interesting one because Adam actually was on. I'm not sure if you saw it. Adam was on fire, and he sailed like how he does.
I've sent Benny 2 videos. I've sent him Marino Gill, and I also sent Victor because they're 2 to compare. Which one are you showing?
Okay,
first,
so this is Marino Gill.
Yeah, so this is a 697.
Bam. Very sick.
I mean, unfortunately, that wave doubled up there, so it was a bit hard to work with it, but he did well. It's bloody good.
I actually...
okay, now that you see it again. Well, I mean, look, just wait till you see... Okay,
you haven't got it from the other... You haven't got it from the other angle?
No, because then I just went straight to Victor's.
Look at the other angle, you can see the wave more different.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, the Victor one is 713. So this is a 713. So this was actually scored higher. Oh, it's paused. Oh, we just missed it. It just paused for me. I'm not sure if it paused for you guys, but.
Are you sure that's the 713?
That can't.
Pretty sure.
That's right, is it?
That won't be a 7.
Because the problem is, it's maybe. Well, it depends.
If that, I don't know if
I don't think that's a 7, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, it might well be, but I.
No, I'm pretty sure that is because the only. Well, unless they missed it, because the only other score after that was a 5-6. But I just went through scrubbed through it, and that was the next.
But the problem is with this, we have to make sure that's the exact wave that is.
Yeah. But the reason I say that, because if you look at the actual score at the top, it's got Victor with a 6.5 and a 4.57, and his next score.
Because I know he had a lot of longer waves with lots of stuff on, so.
Yeah, it could be wrong, but like I said, his next score after that one was a 7-1-3, and it hasn't been registered up on that thing yet. So anyway, interesting. I mean, look, it's as Lucas just said. Maybe after seeing it again, it wasn't too far off. Maybe what it should have been, but I guess it was just that seeing a wave 3 after not seeing it for the whole event, and then all of a sudden he busted out.
No, I'd agree with that. I like, for me, if people aren't doing them, it's because the risk reward is not helping. But if you don't score it big, then you won't see them either, because people are going to say, well, if I risk it, I could score that with doing something a lot safer. So
I think an interesting way of seeing it is like what you'd score the 360 on its own, and I may would score like a 5 or something, the 360 on its own. But when you look at the other bits that he did 2 turns that weren't exactly critical turns, and then the tacker. So you kind of put those bits together.
Well, actually, if you did the 2 turns and the tacker, from what we saw earlier, that could be a 4.
Depends, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if that's a 4 put together with the 5, you're up to 9. Like, if that's how you score it, again, it's never that simple. And there was another view of that 360, which I think it looks. Don't get me wrong, I think it should score loads, but the wave looked worse than on that shot for some reason. And maybe the judges are seeing it because, again, sometimes you look at the live stream, it looked from certain angles. So there was a goiter from, I think it was Benjamin or Diego in the earlier rounds. He had a sick wave with a goiter, but I was like, oh, that's loads of points. And he got something like a 5.5.
Yeah,
that was really early on.
Brilliant goiter.
Yeah, it was really sick. But then it was on the wave behind. There was like a double up wave. And I wasn't sure if they went, okay, it wasn't a proper wave, because it was like there was a wave in front of it and then a little kind of wave behind, and he did it off that. But when you looked at it from the one angle, you're like, that's got to be like in the 8s, like, and it came in as a 5.5, and I was like, wow. And I think it was one of the first heats, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was early on in the day. It was like heat 3.
Yeah, it could have even been. It could have been. I think it's his first heat. Whatever it was.
Okay, this is a bit confusing. I'm actually just going through the video. I don't know, it's weird because for some reason maybe it's missing a score or something, but I have found, I think, what it is, the 7-1-3.
Yeah, Benjamin Fabras, which is like, he scored a 5.83, I think. I mean, he went through the heat. He won the heat, but I remember thinking, 5, like, that seems.
Yeah, I think this is where yesterday a lot of us on the beach were feeling scores be like, okay, that's underscored. Ooh, why is that so high? You know, there was a lot of that. It was like,
I think it's difficult in it. Can you see there, like the light?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
It's actually Matanzas, except as you say, at the end of the day, it becomes that low light becomes like Cape Town. Other than that, it's a fantastic amphitheater to watch. Like, you have very good angles.
Okay. No, but I think people have said that wave that you said isn't the 7. I was going to say the judges for me were pretty, or most of the time, all right. But as in with any judging, whether it's surfing or anything, there's always going to be a few that you don't agree with. I think that's normal. Especially when you've got a long day, like an 8-hour day judging. Jesus, I couldn't do it. And I don't know if you boys can hear me. I'm glitching out a bit here, but someone said the camera is unprofessional. But I will say, you've got to remember, depending on how big the crew is, sometimes you're filming non-stop on a tripod for 8 hours a day with tiny breaks to even have a pee and have a sandwich. It is difficult, and I don't know if they're windsurfers. Do you have, how's the director? Is he a windsurfer? I know there's a lot of excuses you come up with, but it ain't easy. I know that unless you've sat on a tripod filmed for 8 hours with the odd break here and there. It's hard work.
Tricky day.
I mean, I don't know. I'd say they've caught the majority of the action, if not all of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's what you've got to remember. It's not edited footage. This isn't picking out the highlights. This is camera, follow. If they're not windsurfers, imagine that. You're following someone who's, you know, it's like, it's pretty mind-numbing. And after 8 hours, your brain starts to, like, play tricks on you.
I seem to remember, like, a few years ago, or 5 or 10 years, like the live stream, you would get a lot of things that were missed.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty good.
There's much missed here. So
yeah, it was different. Like I said, it was a long day. I've been involved in those days, and I know what the commentary is like. After 7 or 8 hours of just constantly talking, you're in this daze where you're saying stuff, and sometimes I listen to it back and I'm like, what the hell am I on about? You just start coming up with some random stuff just to keep yourself like going. It's tricky. And then some people that join you like lift up the whole thing, and then other people have the opposite effect. You've got to find the right chemistry sometimes. There was some interesting. I like it when different guys come in. It's quite funny yesterday.
Going back to
have a look at it. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to go back to something.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say, check your phone, Benny, because I think I found I know I don't want to keep hashing over it, but just so I can be accurate, I sent you a message with, it's a bit confusing because if I look at the scores and then it just has a couple of scores and then it's 7-1-3, and then I scrubbed through it, found the first two, and then find that other one. So I'm not sure. Anyway, Tomas is also struggling. He said it's also a bit weird. But anyway, I think I found the 7-1-3. So this is that's not it. It's about to start. Here we go. Not sure what happened at the start of that wave.
That section at the end is really difficult to time. It looks like if you see a lot of people crashing at the end, it almost like bends away from you.
Yeah. There's one camera angle where you see it. It looks horrible because you've got to project it so far in. There was one shot of Thomas Traversa. Friggin' hell, he looks so late. Well, he doesn't make it, but he got whacked from I nearly made it. It was pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be careful what we say because we're staying with Victor. But I mean, I think like if we just compare it to like the mega Julian wave, that Julian wave was scored less than that. I think even Victor would agree. Like the scoring's a little bit off there.
Yeah, and I'm the reason I'm bringing Victor up as well is not 7, to take away.
I would put Julian as an 8, or something like that.
Yeah,
or higher. So
it's not to take away from Victor.
Yeah, we have to be a bit careful of breaking it down and sometimes out of context. It is difficult, and again, I don't like getting too much into the judging because I just know how difficult it is, and we don't know if it is that exact wave, which is then you can start something which is not quite correct, which I don't think is fair. But overall, when I was watching, it didn't seem like he was overscored, is what I would say. In context with the heat, when I was watching, I never watched one heat and gone, oh man, he's getting some bonus points here. That's what I remember feeling. Again, we'd have to have a look into every detail of it. But
yeah. No, but the reason, just to clarify, the reason I'm showing Victor is not because I think his scores are wrong. It was more just in reflection of Marino's and whether or not he was underscored. That was the main point. But yeah, I don't know if it is in the end. But anyway, just something, bit of mental entertainment.
Going back to the question you had about who was impressive on the beach and all that. One was Adam Borchel. Because like if you remember last year when we were on this podcast and we were predicting like the underdog who can real surprise us, we put in Adam because last year Adam was ripping, like saying so. And then the contest he had a bit of a shocker and I don't think he did great at all in the contest here. So then it was really good to see him actually start putting some heats together and sailing as he does out of the contest in the heat. It was cool.
And I think that I'll make the point that I spoke to him like when he came. he was really close to not coming because he literally couldn't afford the trip. And I think he found some money or someone gave him. So it's so good to see him that he was able to.
I would like to see him gone one better because he was there. I think he got done with the buzzer beater, didn't he? Who beat him on the? Someone beat him on the buzzer. Was it Camille? Was it Camille?
Camille here. If you look at the screen here. I think. Oh, sorry, I haven't brought the show. Bring it. Here we go.
No, there was definitely a Camille.
Yeah, you have to. Oh, here we go. Why can't I bring it up? There it is.
Yeah, there was. I think there was something at the last minute that beat him. It was a Camille wave, and it wasn't. He didn't need something crazy. Was that the heat? No, that's the one.
No, he would have got through that. Top two go through.
No, second. He's got it.
It was.
It was that one. It was that one. He was leading, going through the whole heat, and then right at the end, Camille got like a little kind of. It was nothing special, but he had a good wave already, Camille, and then that was the damage.
It was quite picking hairs because they both are quite similar waves with those like aerials where it hits you back into the flats and then again and again, and both of them had pretty similar waves. So he was unfortunate there.
Yeah,
and it was also funny because at this stage, Camille hadn't really actually. It looks like in the early heats he hadn't turned up as the Camille that we have seen before. Yeah. And like in Lucas's heat, we were saying, oh, he was fully beatable. Lucas could have had him in that heat.
Yeah.
And then the next heat, which maybe was this one, it was again, it wasn't great. And then in the semi-final against Victor, Camille looked like he didn't have a broken toe anymore.
He went more offshore, maybe. Did it go more offshore or something like towards?
Yeah, at the evening, as the wind dies, it drops off a lot, but it swings more offshore.
Looks good then, doesn't it?
It's really interesting. Okay, then I think we need to get to the business of the title of this video. We're going to talk about the women as well, but we have top four men in the place right now: Marsilio Brown, Marc Paré, Baptiste Clarec, and Camille Jubin. Two of them we picked to make the final. The final three. So, do you want to change your pick? Yeah, exactly. Two of them have got injuries. Are they feeling more pain today? Sometimes the next day can be really bad. Like they could be this is my theory from what I'm going to predict. But I have a feeling those guys are feeling it now. And one heat, in my experience, having an injury, usually it gets better the more you sail on it in a day. The adrenaline's flowing, you're in the flow, and it kind of just starts to just feel normal and you kind of deal with it. Whereas the first heat, oh man, it's really hard. So I think I'm going in with the predictions. Those two boys are gonna be struggling. I think they're gonna feel it way more if it's just a one heat final, which it is. So, I'm going Camille, last year's winner, in fourth place. I'm going Baptiste Clarec in third place. And I'm going to go.
Here we go.
Full simmer bias. Brown in second and Marc Paré in first. That's what I'm going with.
Yay!
Putting the cards on the table.
Can I ask just before I make my prediction? What is the actual forecast today with waves?
I don't care.
No. Not asking you, Benny. I'm asking Finn and Lucas.
I think it's pretty similar to what we had at the end of the day yesterday. Pretty simple. But also, one thing you'll have to note is the tide plays such a difference in what the actual wave face is. So earlier on in the day, it was a lot softer, and you could see like they were able to string sections together. But it was a much like for example, Victor used his more onshore, fatter board for crappier waves, and then as the tide pulls out, which the tides at the moment are massive, and it's going like where they're doing the airs is so shallow right now. Out. So a lot of it will depend on, like, let's say we run the heat in the morning on high tide. I would put Camille and Baptiste with less of a chance, as if it gets hollow. Those boys will love that.
Yeah, agreed. They look better at the end, to be honest. When it went more offshore, Bowley, that Camille and Baptiste looked different.
That's their game, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'm thinking the injuries are going to play against them, and I've got to have some sort of I've got to have something to split it because we can't all go for the same people. So I'm guessing, well, we can, I guess. It doesn't matter. Everyone go with who they think. Right, you're up, boys. Who's your picks?
You want to go? Lucas is the only one here without a sponsored tie, actually.
Yeah, okay. Jeez, difficult.
They can all win. Let's just put it out there because there are some weirdos out there that'll go, oh, you like, shut up. They're all capable of winning. They're all capable of coming fourth. It's a heat. Yeah. The whole fun of it is we got to pick some names because anything can happen.
Yeah. I think it's not just because you said it, but I think I'm going to go the same as Ben. I think I do see, especially, I'm guessing we're going to run earlier than later, so a bit more onshore wind and fatter waves. I just see Mark and Brow being the top guys and then the other two. And I think from yesterday, Mark seemed to be getting a real good rhythm, so I think he's going to be in a good headspace as well. So put Mark first, Brow second, and then Baptiste coming up, just same as Ben, I think, for me.
Yeah, the same. All right. Yeah. Ben.
For me, first and second.
Hold on. You have sponsor commitments here, don't you? So
yeah, for me,
be
first
careful.
It's Marsilio and Mark. And yeah, it's a tricky one. The sponsor side obviously says Marsilio.
Yeah.
There's a lot of me, like, for this heat, I've been caddying for Mark, and like, he's one of my best friends. So I think personally, I'd love to see Mark win it. I think that would be a really nice story for Mark. And as you say, he's growing into it. Whereas like Marsilio has been like heat one, he's been in that excellent, above average heat every single heat. So it's a tricky one. If Mark turns up, I think Mark can win it. If he has like the heats he had in the quarters and the semis, he can win it. So if he's there, he's a winner. Marsilio, if the others don't turn up, we know Marsilio is going to get 14 points. He's going to get around that region. And then the other two, it's hard to know with them. But what I would like to see Mark and Marsilio, so first, second, and then the other two battle it out between third and fourth.
Paul?
So hold on, can you just repeat that? What was your first to fourth again?
Mark first, Marsilio second, Baptiste third, Camille fourth.
Wow.
Oh, okay, so they're just the third and fourth has changed from the other two. Okay. All right. I have to do something different to everybody else, otherwise it's just
but go with what you think. I think you have to go with what you think. I think you have to go with what you think.
What I think. I can't trust my thinking. I think, okay, let me start with fourth. I'm going to I'm going to go with Camille in fourth because of the tide sitch. However, there is a caveat here. If the wind is light, this is tricky.
No, you can't.
This
you
is
can't
bloody tricky. Oh my God!
Like Lucas says, if they waited till the end of the day and it goes more offshore, but I can see it being different. But I don't think they'll do that. That's my thinking because that's too risky. Like to wait that long.
Just get it done.
I could be wrong. I think as soon as they get competitive conditions, they want to bag that result. Is my thinking. Whether it plays out, that's part of the game, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna do something slightly different. Camille fourth, and then for third, I'm gonna go with Marsilio third.
Okay.
Wow.
for
And then
the Baptiste win, I reckon.
Only because Baptiste has been sailing bloody good.
I really thought he sailed good.
And I'm actually, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and go Mark second, Baptiste first.
Yeah.
But this is on the caveat that obviously any of them, I mean, like it's a pure thing. I'm just going to do something.
Don't worry about it. No one's going to ring you up and start.
No. Oh, I don't know, but it's just.
Yeah, no, they do. They do that.
Yeah, exactly. But
No more going.
that's true, Betty. You remember what happened last time when I tried to make an opinion on stuff? Remember how that blew up in my face?
Exactly, it can happen. But like I said, I think
but I think look, obviously Mark, Marsilio, yeah, but Batista only because if he could pull out some crazy move, and if he lands it, and then he does it. So I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be quite close. I think it's gonna be very, very close.
I think 4 of them, they probably each won a heat going in anyway. They could all win this final. There's no death. Like for me, it's going to be mental game. Baptiste is a do or die. The guy's going to go crazy. I think he's winning.
Yeah.
Or he's in 3rd or 4th. I don't think he's 2nd. I think he's either going to nail it or he's going to be off the. Well, who knows? I think it's all.
And I'm also basing this, I know it might not be the same conditions, but I'm just also basing this on the current, like the last heats, because in this heat, Batiste actually got the highest score as far as I can. Sorry. Oh, Mark Perret. Yeah. Well, I know. Sorry, Mark Perret also got a 7-1. Yeah. I know, but I'm just saying that he's obviously capable of pulling out some big scores when needed. So anyway, we'll see what happens, Betty. What's that?
If we cover every base, right? Women. Firstly, Lena Erpenstein. How is she? What's the news on the beach?
Where are we? Let me get there. Women.
I've got to go soon, so
okay. Where are we starting at the semis? Oh yeah, that's right.
No, just we need an Erpenstein update.
We've just got a text message with the heat orders and saying Skip is meeting at Topocama.
Ooh.
But we also, it looks like they're just going to do the juniors and masters today. Final women and final men sometime when live stream is ready. So it looks like they're going to be running the finals at Topocama.
No.
What?
Here we go. Final. We're just waiting to see. Marcelia's just asking if we're going to Topo. We shall see. That would be big news, wouldn't it? Live on the stream.
Ben, you're muted.
Ben, you're muted, Benny.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
What were you saying?
Big news for the stream if this comes through.
Wow. Well, we need to find out exactly what that means.
So confirm that moving to Topocama today.
But for who? Everybody?
Everyone.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's ballsy, isn't it? Like, if that's not in the program, that's interesting, because that will change things. Then Camille, like Baptiste, I think
they're all very good. I don't know.
Yeah, I know they're all good, but I think it plays more into their hands a little bit.
Maybe, yeah.
It depends how big.
I actually think I disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I think Topocama, you need quite a big, like, open face, like, powerful gouge.
Okay.
Do you think first comes to my head there is Marsilio?
Okay, interesting.
Because I feel.
Well, that's a good point. Actually, we're going to have to change all our 1s to 4s now.
Yeah.
Okay. So firstly, do you want to change your predictions?
I'm sticking.
Oh,
I'm sticking.
I know Mark sold it a lot. Bradley sold it a lot. So they're still
really good.
I'm not sure if I'm sticking.
Or he came here training for I don't know how many years. So Mark's been here so much, and the other 2 are injured. That's to do full turns, and if it's a lot of turns, that's hard going when you're injured. It really is.
And one thing I think reads more into the favor of the others is you see Matanzas. We were talking about that barrel. That's where Camille and Baptiste are amazing at hitting that barrel super late.
Yeah.
Whereas I think maybe more of the open face sailing could possibly suit the others.
Yeah.
Interesting comments there.
Okay, I have got to go pretty soon. And if you boys are already going to Topocama, women, Erpenstein, what's the update on her? Is she fully injured or is it?
Yeah, I was literally just got in from sailing and then I saw her get injured, so I helped her out. And I don't know the updates, but she was in like a lot of pain, she was saying.
Okay.
And I don't know if it might be just a tweak, hopefully.
Okay.
But yeah, she was kind of limping, so it wasn't like, like she couldn't walk at all, but we'd have to find out for you.
Yeah. Okay. And then women's final at the moment, we've got Sarah Keita Offringer, Alexia Keita Quintana. We got Jane Seaman and obviously Maria Morales. I had money on Alexia winning this competition, I think, and Mark was my 2 winners from the last podcast, I think. But maybe we did it after you guys left. I can't remember. Or did we? I think we probably did.
Yeah, I think we did, yeah.
Just pick 2 winners. So I'm going to stick with Alexia Keita winning this.
It's interesting here. I'm not sure if Sarah has sailed.
Sarah has not sailed Topocama from what I know.
Sarah hasn't sailed Topo. I think Alexia and Maria haven't sailed Topo this year. They would have last year. Jane Seaman has sailed Topo quite a number of times this year.
Ooh.
And so that changes up a lot of things.
Yeah.
We spoke about the challenges. A lot of people never sailing it before and being a bit unsure there. In the final, that's a big change.
Okay, make some predictions. Go on, boys. On the line.
Alexia, Maria, Sarah, Jane.
I'm going to go Alexia. I'm going to go Alexia, Sarah, and then Jane and Maria.
Yeah, I would actually swap Sarah and Maria, so same.
I think Sarah's, she came here the other day for the first time and was pretty good. So
I think they're all good, but Sarah Keita is freaking good. I think that's the takeaway. Right, Mr. Van Bellen, what you calling?
Alexia. Oh, sorry, 4th. I'll go Maria. 3rd, Jane. 2nd, Sarah Keita, and 1st, Alexia.
Yeah, I think you know what? I don't want to be the same, but that was what I had in my head before I even asked you boys. Like, I kind of predict Alexia to win a comp soon, and I think Chile, she has got, like, when you see her turn, she's so aggressive round, and I think if anyone's got a chance to beat Sarah Keita, for me, it's her. So that's my basis on that. And not that I don't want Sarah Keita to win, but she's won so much. I feel like I want to give some energy to someone else taking it down, which would be like, when Sarah was trying to beat the Moreno twins, it wasn't that you were against Ida or Abaya, but you just wanted somebody to beat them because they've been at the top for so long. When Bjorn was at the top, it's like you want someone else to beat them. So there's nothing against her sailing. Will she win? Probably. But I think for me, Lexia's going to have her time, and maybe this is the place where it's going to come out. So then I think Sarah will be close, if not the winner. But Alexia, Sarah Keita, and then between Jane and Maria.
Yeah,
Maria's pretty full on. Like, I think if she has a stormer, she could do it. Jane's a little bit more wily, been around a bit. She knows how to compete. Used to maybe bigger waves at Margie's and stuff. Maybe it'd be smaller at Tropicana. So, but I think she'll have the experience. So this is a tricky one.
Yeah, no, definitely.
See, I was going to go Jane 3rd and Maria 4th, but maybe I'm going Maria emotional 3rd and Jane's going to come in 4th just because I want to give it to the young girl. So I'll just be a little bit different to you guys.
Yep, that's a very good call. Cool. All right, Benny, what do you want to wrap it up then? So you got to get out of here?
Yeah, I have got to go, but I'm looking forward to this. I'm like, it's quite exciting. Like sometimes when you don't follow it and you're thinking, I wonder how interesting it's going to be. Then as soon as it kicks off, I'm like, ooh. Like I said, every heat you look at, you're thinking, wow, anyone can win. Like, seriously, we picked the guys that got to the final but you could see in every heat, it wasn't a foregone conclusion. It could have gone any way.
Yeah.
Any of the guys even that finished in 4th, if they'd have got the right waves, you know, and gone to what they can do, you could easily see upsets happening. So I love to see upsets. I would love to see a few more upsets. I thought Vorchol maybe making the semis would have been pretty epic. Yeah. I thought that was going to happen as well, which is a shame because I thought that after last year, I remember saying he had one of the best turns of the competition last year. Like, didn't get as far as I thought he could have last year, but I thought he looked like he liked the place and, you know, carried it on this year. So that's good to see. So, yeah, exciting. Topicana. Ooh.
Exciting. Interesting. Surprised me, that. It's surprising.
Yeah, surprised. I think it surprised everyone. So, yeah.
That's right. Heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy, boys. You're going to go down there, obviously.
I don't know.
Actually,
maybe not.
Yeah.
We were thinking to go to Topocama because here we won't sail. So now
very good point. It's an hour or so. You've probably got the live stream, which will probably be the best view anyway.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how that setup's going to work because there's literally nothing there. It's just a wild.
Yeah.
So they must have some sort of truck with.
Maybe everyone has to keep it quiet. They film it as live, and then they give us a full 4K seamless, like as live stream.
Yeah.
And
keep
no one
What's
results.
unlikely,
cool.
Benny? Good though.
Yeah. All right, boys. Cool. Take it easy. Enjoy your day. I'm sure we'll speak to you at some point.
Yeah. Chat to you later.
Thanks guys. Yeah. Thanks, guys. See ya. Bye.
All right.
All right. Well done. Thanks to Finn and Lucas. Always good to hear people on the ground. What is going on?
Yeah.
So,
Apologies.
Cool, Benny.
Got a pregnant lady. We got to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually happening.
No.
Oh my God, Benny.
No.
Is it?
We got the final thing. I don't know what they do.
It's April Fool's joke, is it?
Well, no, it could well be.
Yeah.
It's due in the next 2 weeks, so I mean, it could pop out at any moment.
That'd be funny. Maybe she can give birth on the podcast. That'd be, can we have a live feed? Huh? You can commentate it as well. Huh? Oh, it's coming out.
You wouldn't want me
Tin the lid. Tin the lid.
You can get the dad cam. Maybe we don't want that.
All right, we'll have a catch up after the event, and have a bit of a debrief of what happened.
Yeah. All right, man. Check in a bit.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. Cause PWA, we're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.